the pursuit of greatness begins at first light. Who will be victorious? Only time will tell.
This season has brought plenty of challenges, from tough road courses to super fast ovals. Today, though, brings a new test for drivers. It's the Dirt Wildcard round for the Major Series, as the European Pro Split goes rallycross racing at Lankabanken. Live on GSRC. Hello everyone, and welcome to the 8th race of the Major Series European Regions Pro Split season, WRX Norway, live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth today is Christian Chowder, along with Ozzy Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. This track is very unique and challenging when it comes to its racing. Let's learn more about it with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Lankabanken. Most race fans will know this place by its more ominous name, Hell. Located halfway between Norway's shoreline and the border for Sweden, this might be one of the most famous European rallycross circuits. The two layouts available on iRacing are relatively similar, with both including 7 turns and a lap length just a hair over 1 kilometer. The big difference is the placement of the Joker lap and the first corner. The regular version kicks things off with the first turn sweeping steeply downhill in a long, nearly 180-degree run. In contrast, the Dirt Joker lap to its outside takes the drivers around a slow, tight hairpin. In the short layout, this is part of the regular course. Instead, the Joker lap gets shifted to the bottom of the hill and is paved. Most of the track is extremely tight and includes frighteningly little runoff. A majority of the corners are hairpins, and there's essentially no place where the cars aren't going through a drastic change in elevation. On top of that, the transitions between dirt and pavement happen both frequently and right at spots where you tend to want to be braking. Drivers will absolutely need to be on their toes. To finish things off in spectacular fashion, the finish line has the cars leaping through the air. It's no wonder Hell is always popular with fans. This hillside haven continues to thrill and challenge anyone who comes to tackle it.
That was a look at our GSRC track guide for Lankabanken. Now let's bring in Ozzy to start things off, as today's going to be interesting for these drivers as a result, as we're at the rallycross layout for this track today.
Yeah, it's an interesting layout to say the least. Probably the most challenging rallycross venue on the entire service. You got the bumpy and short front straight that curves all around. It's not really straight as much as it's a curvy challenge. Then you got turn 5, the gravel corner on the bottom of the circuit, turn 4, turn 5, whatever you might want to call it. You have to really cut all the way to the curb on the inside on that one. And it's just a constant challenge, despite its short length, despite the lack of artificial jumps that every other venue seems to have. It's probably the most challenging one. And one last thing, the choker lap, it actually doesn't save you time. It will cost you time. And that is the most unique feature out here.
It's all going to be very interesting for these drivers indeed throughout the multiple different groupings of drivers we'll talk about in a little bit here for today's action. Now, when it comes to the standings entering today, it is Tim Claessens who holds on to the points lead in the pro standings entering today's action here in Norway. That's by 9 points over Handsome Pete after an interesting race in the French countryside. As well, Sam Harper, Dallas Pataska, Eric Mickey rounding out the top 5 in the standings entering today's action. Let's head towards your race details meanwhile, as let's talk about how things are going to fare out here, Christian.
Yeah, so it's an interesting format that we've got today. Essentially, what everybody is split into is run groups, and the way you advance through to the semifinals and then the finals is based on your total points from the run group. So there's three races of 5 laps each, and you're scored within your position. It's kind of a bit like a sort of like a football group stage for those who know. Interesting sort of side point there. Obviously, Euro 2020 today. But heat racing, open setups, cautions off, very short races, 5 laps. If you make a mistake, you're probably scoring no points.
Qualifying is underway with Dallas Pataska among the drivers running on the racetrack. I'd like to take the time to remind you of today's charity for the major series in this event, Alzheimer's Association, which leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. From face-to-face support to online education programs and promising worldwide research initiatives, your donations make a difference in the lives of those impacted by Alzheimer's disease. For more information or to donate, go to www.alz.org. Currently at the moment, it is Sam Harper who's at the top of the board with a 38.336. They have 4 laps to set qualifying time, 7 total minutes here at this racetrack. And Ozzy, that in turn is going to make things intriguing on how today fares out. There's a lot of positivity and momentum heading towards Pataska's weigh-in session. He was the quickest driver by more than 9/10.
He is, and it's going to be very interesting to see, of course, how he fares on in this qualifying session. Now, the qualifying, usually it's thought of as a hot lap challenge, really, you know, something to start up the race with. But in rallycross, it's so super important. The qualifying position and the start, they are the most important parts of any rallycross race. If you get a good start, if you get the lead, then you can control the race from there. And you don't want to give up that lead, and it affects your choker strategy as well. Remember, the choker here, it's not a shortcut. It's a European-style choker, meaning that you're losing time instead of gaining time. So that's gonna also change the complexion of the race. As we see Pataska, well, we got an answer on how he's faring on, 37.9. Chris, that's a very good time.
Yeah, they're quite a bit slower than he was running in practice. I'm guessing that's mostly down to the track state reset. And one thing to mention is we got a lot of Subarus here, but Pataska is one of the few Fords. And I personally have always actually favored the Ford. For whatever reason, I know people love the Subaru, but I just can't get the thing to work for me. And especially around a pavement-heavy track such as this one, I feel like the Fiesta is actually the better choice.
Going to be interesting how these various different cars are, and I want to turn to you, Christian. Are there major differences between these cars? How do you try and decipher, okay, this is the car I want to go with its positives and negatives?
Well, I think the majority of it when it comes down to rallycross is exactly what we were talking about in terms of the start and actually strategy with when you take the Joker. And really, it sounds strange to say in a race that has so few laps that you're actually really focused on traffic, but you really are, because there is so few laps, and if you can have clean laps, you're almost certainly going to be faster than if you're in amongst the pack. So being able to escape is obviously a big thing. The Subaru is known for being pretty strong, especially in terms of acceleration and just outright stability, but direction change is probably the best in the Fiesta, and that's those are the two which are the kind of furthest apart, I would say. The VW is kind of in the middle of the two. My personal preference, as I've said, is the Fiesta. I just like the direction change, but the Subaru does get a lot of love.
By the way, the quickest time for Dallas Pataska, 37.684. That is half a second quicker than Travis Henderson, Sam Harper, 38.155 in third. Erwich, Teclis, Baker rounding out the top 5 on the board. Separation is approximately just under 2 seconds, with about 90 seconds for drivers to work with before they make their way to what's going to be an interesting day of action. How it's going to work is essentially there are run groups for the various competitors in the series, where there were 6 or 7 drivers in each of the groups. Each group will run 3 Q races against each other. A heat, a consi, and a main, all 5 laps with 1 joker. The points from each qualifying race are the same and accumulate as the races go on. Then the top driver from each run group today will make the semifinals, with the rest of the semifinal spots being made up the highest scoring drivers who didn't win their group. There are 4 different groups today to determine who will be in those semifinals and finals races, and of course there will be a short intermission between said run groups and semifinals as they prepare those respective competitors for the 6th lap, 1 joker, semifinal, and final later on. In other words, you need to be consistent when it comes to your times if you want to be able to make it to the semifinals and have a chance at a max points day here, Aussie.
That's absolutely true, and it's typical rallycross stuff, you know. It's not just the final, but it's also about those run groups, about those heats, about the qualifying. It's a long day's work, and you need to be absolutely in your game in every single one of those things. Like it's not just about the final, it's not just about overtaking, but it's also about the whole day's progress and whole day's process as well. Now, I got an interesting point briefly to bring up from the chat. We have a fan who claims to see the future, and we have a real Nostradamus, or should I say Nostradamus, and saying that every race he can is and winning the final as well is Dallas Pataska.
We'll see if that rings true from Trevor Bobrovsky, who is one of the competitors in this series. As you see your starting grid, it is Pataska who set the fastest time with a 37.684. Travis Henderson, Sam Harper, David Mulnorich, along with Udis Pateklis and David H. Baker, the 6 drivers in grouping number 1. That's how they'll line up to start off the 3 qualifying races, as the drivers now have the next moments or so to be able to make their way to the starting grid. It's going to take a few moments as we're waiting for the last of the drivers to make their way onto the racetrack. That's including Dallas Pataska. Also trying to make their way onto the racetrack is Mel Nerwich. Both of those drivers have now made their way to the grid, and all of the competitors are ready. Race 1 of Group 1 is underway from Norway. And a great launch by Pataska on the right side as he dives it in, but what a send-in contact! Henderson nearly goes around in front of several cars. One driver already took the joker on the first lap. As Henderson gets turned after what was a good qualifying run, he is now dead last in the first Q race.
So that's very interesting to see how Henderson got turned around in the start. That's a very typical Hell incident in that he just got basically turned around in the quarter panel on turn number 2, and that means he is now stone dead last. And for Baker, I think taking the joker lap early on, right on lap 1, was the correct decision. You see that often on Norway, on this track, where if you start on the left-hand side of the starting grid, you're gonna go to the joker right away, and we see another driver as well potentially taking the joker. I think there was one other driver, yeah, Puteklis taking the joker as well here right on the start, unless I was much mistaken. But here we see Dallas Pataska, who is being very impressive so far, Christian. And I must say, he's just extending that lead, and he's showing what you said about that Ford Fiesta. It is really fast out here.
Yeah, he looked a little bit weak on the initial getaway, but then by the time they got down to 1, he sort of actually hooked it around the corner really nicely. Obviously, there was a little bit of contact, but he was able to kind of escape the melee and then take the Joker on the second lap and come out in clean air. And I totally agree on the strategy. If you start on the left side, you should take the Joker right away, because you know everybody's going to concertina up into turn 1. So if we know the outside is not the place that you want to be, especially in rallycross into turn 1. So why not immediately take the time penalty, knowing that if you can at least stay close, you'll hopefully be able to cycle ahead of a few people when they take their Jokers.
Meanwhile, they're seeing a bit of pressure from behind. This is from Harper, who takes a little bit of the jump. See how they handle the inside of the corner this time as they stay wheel to wheel. Harper has been letting the car roll a lot in this section here.
Can I just point out to what it says on the right-hand side of Harper's name tag, 52 Harper, and on the right-hand side, I think you're gonna find the lyrics of a very popular song as it goes for the past.
Have we actually been rickrolled in the middle of a broadcast by the dashboard of his car?
I didn't even notice that at first.
That is incredible.
Very incredible, and I can see why. Before today's action, he had spent plenty of time making sure his paint scheme was right. I'm guessing that is why, as Dallas Pataska, by the way, has already reached the final lap. That's how quick the lap times turn here, and is leading by more than 4 seconds. What a run for Dallas Pataska to start the qualifying action today, and already reaching Henderson, who had lost several seconds trying to get his car sorted back out from earlier trouble. Dallas Pataska takes the checker flag, wins the first qualifying race. Second, Harper, Merwich, Uteklis, Baker, Henderson will be the 6 drivers across the stripe who end up finishing what was an interesting first run, especially for Henderson, who will be looking to make up some valuable points in the second and third parts of this group.
Yep, and top 3 in each group will advance as well. Something I think you mentioned earlier, Justin. So it's going to be an uphill battle for Henderson.
Absolutely. It's going to be intriguing how he recovers from that early run. But now these drivers are already getting ready for their next qualifying race. With these drivers, let's take a look at how they'll line up here for this one. It's Pataska, Harper, Manerwich, Puteklis, Baker, Henderson be the lineup for this respective qualifying race. As now we'll see how things fare out here in what's going to be interesting. We'll get to that reason in a second. But these drivers already just about all set to get rolling for this next part of our card for this respective group. All the drivers have made their way to the grid. It's time to get racing once more from Norway. Lankabanken has had some interesting racing so far. Dallas Pataska looking to continue the momentum. He's off and away with the rest of the pack.
Really slow start by Baker.
Oh, and one driver got hit into the wall. Manerwich with some hard contact got shuffled to the back after getting slammed into the wall. Dallas Pataska, though, still holds on to the lead by about 1 second.
Very interesting to see that despite getting that contact, Malnerovic decided not to go for the choker right away because he was already punted onto the way of the choker, but he did not go there, so he still has that to go.
Keep in mind, we are using the iRacing heat system for this, so it's going to be interesting how things will be scored when it comes to respective groupings, as there's been a skippage in the program. We'll see how things are sorted by race control afterwards. But Dallas Pataska and Uis Puteklis both take the joker this time. That moves Harper into the race lead for the time being.
Yeah, and this time Pataska wasn't able to come out back in the lead, so he's going to have a little bit of traffic to deal with.
And it's going to be very, very dangerous for Baker and Pataska as well, now that Harper's in the race lead. If they catch up to him soon, and if Harper elects to save that choker up until the last lap or something, it can really, really bunch them up. And it can bunch them up good. So especially for Pataska, he can lose that lead in a hurry if he can't make those overtakes soon.
Taking the Joker this time is Harper as Pataska goes inside. Pataska able to take away the race lead once more with Harper holding on to second. Travis Henderson, though, is already up 3 positions. He is up to third and looking to battle for second position now.
If he gets a second, he might just be able to go through on points.
Yeah, it's Matt. It's something that we have to figure out. Sorry, Justin, to cut you in there, but just able to go through. It's one of those things we have to keep reminding you of, I guess. Like we have to do constant math on the broadcast. We have to constantly wait and see and just check out what the group situation will be, because these guys are not just racing for the heat win; they're also racing for the position. And Henderson as well. He was last on the first heat, remember?
He needs this spot to be in a good position right now as they're coming to the white flag this time. Henderson, though, seems to be struggling in that respective corner. Has lost a ton of time at that part of the racetrack the past couple laps, nearly sliding into the Armco barriers. As Pataska takes the white, final lap from Norway in this group. And we'll see how Pataska continues to maintain this pace, as right now they're in the 37.6s at the moment. For Pataska, 38s for the groupings behind, as they've separated out. Harper's now built up a buffer of about a couple seconds over Travis Henderson. As well, Puteklis has built up a couple seconds on David H. Baker and Mount Airwich, 15 seconds back. But for Dallas Pataska, an hour-dominating run, another checkered flag.
Yeah, pretty easy advancement for him. I think we were all expecting that, but you know, it's going to be tight further down the order. I think Sam Harper's definitely going to be safe with the 2 second-place finishes, but we'll just have to wait and see how it filters out for that third spot.
Wait and see once more. Once again, it's Pataska, Harper, Henderson, Puteklis, Baker, Mount Airwich who finish out 1 through 6 for this respective group. As once more, we'll take a look at those race results separated by 15 seconds amongst that interval. An interesting race overall, Aussie.
A very interesting one, different from the first one. It had some of that early drama you expect to see in rallycross, but Pataska once again showing his incredible pace, and he's been really practicing this, and it's very impressive considering how different rallycross is from practically every other discipline, Christian. Even if the iRacing rallycross is, I guess, more closely related to road racing than many people might anticipate at first.
Yeah, absolutely. I am surprised how strong he actually is. I mean, I'm not surprised that he can drive the car. You know, I mean, we all know that Dallas is able to drive most things pretty fast. But I have a feeling that this specific RX layout probably plays more into his kind of wheelhouse than maybe some of the others. There's obviously quite a heavy focus on tarmac. There's no artificial jumps, as you said. And I think that actually makes it's a difficult track, but I think it's an easier transition than, say, if we'd have ran somewhere like Daytona.
With that, we'll take a quick break. Group 2 coming up right after this. welcome back to the Major Series in its European Pro Split. Once more from Norway, and what's been some intriguing racing so far. Dallas Pataska very dominant in his first group. Once again, we bring you back to action for group number 2 here on GSRC, as drivers are currently making their way around the racetrack for qualifying. Trevor Bobrovsky, Cordell Cologne, Isaac Snyder, Wayne Hutchinson, Eric Mickey, Ray Partridge is this respective group of drivers who will be looking to try and showcase what they can do. They're fairly close on lap times. It should be fun, this respective group, guys.
Yeah, it is a bit closer, that's for sure, especially for that second spot. Colon's obviously at 38.8, Isaac Snyder's at 38.9, so I think we should expect a tight battle there. Vavrovsky looks like he's got a pretty substantial advantage there, it has to be said. It might not have shown up so much in practice, but he's got 8 tenths on the field in qualifying.
Currently in the midst of clarifications for Group 1 as well for scoring. Dallas Pataska, Sam Harper, Chris Patekos, the 3 drivers who are 1, 2, 3 in points scored, with 2 total races turned for that respective group. So, to get the full clarification, we will give information on that, as it likely will come into play for this respective grouping of drivers as well. Following on with Isaac Snyder, who is currently 3rd in qualifying. He's now starting his 4th and final lap around the racetrack, and has elected to slow things on down after turning a 39.2. Cordell Cologne, meanwhile, crashing, and you can tell just how difficult this track is to be able to get a handle of, especially with its tight turns, as talked about Ozzy earlier on.
Yeah, it's not the easiest one whatsoever. Not the easiest one at all. And Vavrovsky, he's very impressive. I think he's only about, 2/10 of a second, less than 2/10 of a second behind Dallas Pataska's qualifying time last time around. Now, those can't be taken exactly 1-to-1, but it shows that he's having some very impressive pace. But after that, it's looking very tight between Cologne, Mick, and Snyder.
And a lot of Fords in this one as well, Christian. So it's going to be interesting how all these Fords launch off here for this race. The majority of them are in this field.
Yeah, a little bit surprising to obviously see, especially after the previous race. It's kind of like everybody's sort of been grouped up almost by manufacturer in a sense. The last race was an abundance of Subarus, and this race is an abundance of Fords. So hopefully when we get through to the final, it'll kind of all shake out and be a bit more even, because it does present kind of an interesting difference, especially on the launch and in terms of what you're going to do when you get down to turn 1 and 2. I really feel like the tight 1 and 2 does favor the Fiesta if it can get away, but the launch off the line is definitely towards the Subaru. So for me, yeah.
Chris, I just want to say how apt it is for Norway to have an abundance of fjords.
Yes, that seems correct. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we'll have an all-Ford final.
Maybe, just maybe. And that's something that's going to be interesting, as Eric Mickey started his 4th lap. 38.4 last time by, quickest time for him, a 38.3. The quickest time overall, Trevor Borowski, a 38 flat in this session. Ray Partridge now coming across the stripe, 39.2, the quickest time for the Sargent's Place machine so far. As we look back at Mickey trying to get himself 3/10. That's not how you get 3/10. That's how you likely get your lap time ended, with some contact with the wall. As that will mean it's time to go towards your starting grid as we get ready to go racing here, and the official clarification coming in that these drivers expected for 2 respective races for their qualifying groups now. Trevor Bobrovsky, Eric Mickey, Cordell Cologne, Isaac Snyder, Ray Partridge, Wayne Hutchinson. Your 6 drivers in this respective group lined up 1 through 6. As we get ready to go racing, your expectations for Group 2, Christian?
I expect that now, with everybody knowing it's going to be 2 races instead of 3, there's an even greater emphasis on not getting turned around. Obviously, we saw Travis Henderson was particularly fast in race 2, qualified well, but has not advanced through pretty much because of the issues that he encountered in race 1. So just getting to the flag is definitely a big deal, and obviously surviving the start is part of that.
It's going to be very important to get that good launch. We're waiting on one last driver, Trevor Bobrovsky, to make his way onto the racetrack. Then we'll get going. All those drivers have now made their way onto the circuit. which means it's time to launch things off. Group number 2 from Norway, already the drivers spinning their tires, ready to fly. As the green lights are out, we're underway. What a launch up the inside, 4 wide, Wayne Hutchinson. Hutchinson elects to keep an eye. 1 driver, make it 2, go through the Joker, as those drivers are Wayne Hutchinson and Cordell Cologne, who take the Joker to start.
Interesting strategy there, especially when they had quite a commanding position actually going into turn 1 to take the Joker immediately. They're now going to encounter traffic, especially on the 2nd and 3rd laps, depending on if everybody else takes the Joker on.
Eric Mickey now leads this respective group for now. As now, bit of contact behind. Ray Partridge has been sent off the racetrack. He's spun around as the rest of the drivers continue to battle, including Bobrovsky for the race lead. Bobrovsky now going to the left side. Will he take the Joker? No. Huge send for Isaac Snyder, though, into the Joker, though.
Snyder's having a very interesting strategy there as well. I think he wanted to come out of the Joker ahead of Hutchinson and Partridge, who took it on the first lap, and he was successful on that. So if Mika and Wawrowski battle there on the lead, I think he's in a very good position to capitalize come the last lap or so. So it's a very good strategy call for Snyder. However, he's lost that 1 position to Hutchinson now, so never mind about that. I guess it didn't go that well for him after all. Eric Mika, meanwhile, with the fastest lap of the race.
That's currently holding on to a couple second advantage at the moment. Bobrovsky taking the Joker this past time, getting passed by Cordell Cologne as well. As we follow along with Snyder, tries to close up. He is the only driver in a non-Ford in this group. He's in a Subaru, which will make things intriguing as he goes for the send underneath Hutchinson. That orange and black machine able to get the squeeze, though. Better pull, though, for Snyder down the straightaway, able to make the pass.
Yeah, he got that rotated really nicely there. I was actually surprised, especially... what happened to him right there as he was coming off the grass is actually kind of what I was expecting to see happen to him down at the hairpin. It looked like he carried way too much speed in, but was able to get it turned around and able to take that spot.
Meanwhile, Cologne passed by Bobrovsky now. That's for 2nd position. Right now, Eric Mickey holding on to what is about a 6-second advantage, coming up to the white flag this time by. See how things turn out for this respective group. I believe Mickey has to find a way to utilize that Joker coming up pretty soon, though, still. So white flag now taken, and Mickey has taken the Joker after setting the fastest lap. Where will the other 2 fare out? Mickey able to hold on to the lead by about 10 car lengths plus.
A significant gain right there, waited right until the very end to take it. I think that was actually a smart decision by him.
Super smart, and he's done his homework with the Joker as well. You noticed how Mickey was all the way to the left, exiting the Joker. You got the best grip there, so but you have to be aware of the wall, of course, but you got the best grip all the way to the left.
Checker flag now waving as Eric Mickey wins the first qualifying race. 2nd spot goes for Bobrovsky, Cordell Cologne in 3rd. Snyder comes across the stripe in 4th. Wayne Hutchinson, after such a strong start, in 5th. And Ray Partridge, who had trouble in the first lap, rounds out the 6 drivers in the respective running order. That takes us to the 2nd in the final qualifying race for this respective group. Again, to remind you, the point structure for these respective drivers: 10 points for 1st, 7 for 2nd, then 5, 4, 3, and 2 for the respective seeding. Now, these drivers will be set up like this for this 2nd qualifying race: Mickey, Bobrovsky, Cologne, Snyder, Hutchinson, Partridge. Those are the 6 drivers already ready to go. Green lights are out, we're underway, and another good launch from Hutchinson. This time boxed in, massive send by Cologne, along with several others to that Joker lap. One driver did have some trouble, and Isaac Snyder lost a lot of time.
It's going to be particularly damaging for Snyder trying to get through. There's been some contact further back as well, but Snyder obviously finished 4th in the first race, was going to need at minimum 3rd, probably 2nd to for sure advance. and obviously being turned around there at the very first corner is not the way that that's gonna happen for him.
Yeah, lost a lot of time to the point where he's already right in front of the Joker lap drivers. Better pull down the straightaway though as they start to battle behind him. Cologne and Bobrovsky side by side. Bobrovsky taking away the position for the 50. Back to the pavement section they now go. A bit of a run through the rumble strips, losing some time. Bobrovsky as Snyder tries to gain back some of the time up in front. You see now from on board, this is from Bobrovsky. Side by side, car to the right side. That's Cologne once more who takes the rumble towards that side, but the preferred line goes back to Bobrovsky.
I actually want to pick your brain a little, Chris, on the lines on the bottom hairpin, that gravel turn. I mentioned earlier how it's very important to take that all the way to the inside because you got the best grip next to the curb, but we are seeing two different approaches. We're seeing the smooth approach, the round approach, so to speak, into the hairpin. We're coming to it right now, and then we see the diamond approach as well. And you can see different things working for different drivers, but seems that a lot of guys, especially Cologne, seems to be very, very happy to just throw it in, get it all the way sideways, and then just accelerate out. Which would be your preferred option?
I think I'd definitely go for the smoother option, especially in the Fiesta. Maybe with the Subaru, I'd probably try the Diamond, but yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at how aggressively some of the drivers are entering that specific corner, because as you say, it's kind of one which is, I mean, it's a critical corner because it's a comparatively long straightaway. As we see Snyder just come out of the Joker there and slot in between the two Fiestas, that's going to be critical for his race. But now coming down to the corner we were just discussing, you see that there's some going all the way to the outside. Snyder actually getting caught by the curb, losing that position.
Yeah, that is not good, going all the way inside to where the pavement part of the racetrack is. That loses them a lot of time, and that could be costly for those top three positions. White flag is out. Mickey is taking the Joker, and once again, it is a massive advantage for Eric Mickey. Even bigger than the last time, more than 3 seconds. What a dominating race for Eric Mickey as he slows down a little bit this time going through the gears, loses about 2 seconds from that.
I think he picked up a slowdown actually inside the Joker. He was very aggressive with the kind of the curb cut. So I think that's what happened to him right there. But yeah, that corner at the bottom of the hill, my preference is really to try and hug tight towards the curb and to kind of take the smooth approach. But I have seen people effectively kind of do that diamond line just because the straighter you can keep the car, the more outright drive you seem to be retained. So I think it's somewhat preference, but I kind of do think that it skews towards doing the smooth arc.
And already checker flag waving. That's how quick these laps go and how quick these races go. Eric Mickey comes away with the victory for Bobrovsky, Cologne, Snyder, Hutchinson. Top 5, how they shape out. Ray Partridge, 6th in this respective group. The interval difference, 13.3 seconds this time for this respective group to close out the respective qualifying races. With that, the next grouping getting ready to hit the track in the next few moments. You're watching the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to iRacing's Virtual Norway as we get ready for grouping number 3 for Rallycross action in the Major Series and its European Pro Split action. Justin Prince, Ozzy Buhaka, Christian Chowder with you, with Sean Ambrose in the director's seat for today's action as drivers are in the midst of qualifying in grouping number 3. We can tell you Eric Mickey came away with the max points in his respective group with 20, with Bobrovsky 14 points in second. Cordell Palone rounded out the 3 drivers, getting the advancing spots with 10 points. Isaac Snyder just 2 points out with 4 points scored per race. Along with Ray Partridge, Wade Hutcherson, those drivers did not make it in the respective grouping. But today, or rather this grouping I should say, is going to be interesting. It has George Gruber, Joshua Wolf, Colin Martzoff, Hanson Pete, Kirk Crum, Tom Drelling, and the driver at the top of the board you see at the moment, Matthew Thunhorst, who is making a interesting start here, Christian, in this series. Normally known for his American region starts, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely interesting to see him here. Hopefully we'll see him in the Americas region later for the Pro 2 and Pro 4 trucks at Crandon. But this is a little bit different, obviously, with the kind of additional driver, so to speak. And he can kind of ruin some regulars' days here if he maintains his pace and goes through, because it's going to mean that somebody else doesn't advance through to the final. And this group is, I would say, particularly strong. Out of the groups we've had so far, there's kind of been a sort of clear spread, I would say, especially for the first race. We kind of knew off the bat that Pataska would be advancing, but this group is very strong. You've got Harrod, Thunhorst, Wolf, Gruber, Martzoff, Crum, and Drayling. And we've seen essentially all of these drivers compete at some point or other over either this season or the past couple of seasons. So I'm excited to see how this one goes.
I'm excited to see how he does as well. Hanson Pete, though, at the top of the board now, bumped off by Thunhorst for his 3rd time around with a 37.838. Colin Martzoff following along with on screen. Looking to bump up from the 42nd bracket. This time, gets a 39.1, has one more lap to increase that time here in qualifying. But your thoughts, Ozzy, on how things have played out so far in the first couple groupings?
Pretty much as expected. We got those couple of people. I mean, I was surprised by Erik Mikke's absolute stellar performance last time around. I knew he's good, but I didn't expect him to be quite that good, scoring the top points. I think this is going to be the closest group so far. And Colin Martzoff here pictured, I just want to give him a shout out. That's 2 Slapshot references. Slapshot, the 1970s hockey movie, the one that absolutely ruined, I think it was Paul Newman's vocabulary. He wasn't swearing at all before the movie, and he was swearing constantly after it. He's having the Charlestown Chiefs logos on the side of the car, and it's Hanson Brothers Racing. We're not talking about the 1990s pop band, we're talking about the 1970s trio of hockey enforcers.
Yes, indeed, and is always known for running those various different schemes, that team, throughout this series, and in turn bring some creativity in their respective designs. All drivers have set qualifying times in this grouping, as right now Tom Drelling the lowest of the times with a 41.173. Most of the drivers, though, separated by only a couple tenths of a second, including Gruber, who is looking to try and put himself into the 37-second bracket, with himself getting some extra experience here, I should rather say. Here, 38.691 was the final time for him. So about 90 seconds or so until drivers get rolling. Either way here, Christian. And who are you keeping your eye on outside of Thunhorst in this grouping? That's Kirk Crum to the top of the board.
Well, obviously Kurt Crum with the fastest time is one that we've got to keep an eye on, but Pete Harrod, Joshua Wolf, the 2 that I think are going to be battling it out for the transfer spot. It's super easy to say that 3rd and 4th in times, but you know, that's possibly how it's going to work out. But it is very close, especially when you think that the qualifying time for pole right now is 37.7, and then you've got to go back to 5th spot and it's only a 38.1. Now normally we'd be like, oh, that's a 4/10 difference. Like, that's huge, but in the context of Rallycross, it's not really that large. and it can really obviously change around depending on how you get away at the start. What I'm saying is it's not going to be easy to run people down if you make a mistake. So I think the start is, as always, critical, but I think even more so in this specific grouping.
30 seconds until we make our way to our first race grid. Your thoughts, Ozzy?
I got a lot of thoughts. I got mostly Slapshot quotes running in my mind right now. That move is a trip. But Gork Gruber, he's getting his last chance starting right now. That's not a very good lap, but I think that's a shakedown lap for him. However, I don't think he has time to actually finish his last one and goes to the choker right away. Just giving it a practice run. That's so important to practice where the grip is and where you're going to find a smooth grip. Because Chris, just briefly, your thoughts as well. The grip isn't constant in rallycross at all.
Yeah, and that's something I personally struggled with, especially on the dirt aspects of it. Not so much at this track because you're not on it that much, but especially at some places like Daytona and whatnot. As the grip level changes, it's something that I'm not particularly good at judging. I'll be honest, but obviously the best guys are, and I think that could actually play a factor, especially with the track transferring between races 1 and 2. We might not necessarily see the same people being as good in the second race as they are in the first.
Drivers now making their way to the starting grid. Let's take a look at how they will roll for this first race. It's Kurt Crum, Matthew Thunhorst, Hanson Pete, Joshua Wolf, George Gruber, Colin Martzoff, Tom Durailing. These 7 drivers in this respective group. They have 1 minute to make their way to the grid to be able to get rolling for the first of our qualifying races for group number 3. And for those just tuning in, Dallas Pataska, Sam Harper, Udis Patekwas, Eric Mickey, Trevor Borowski, and Cordell Colon among the drivers who have finished in the top 3 respectively in their respective groups so far to move to the semifinals and to be able to advance on forward in this format. As the drivers just making their way towards your starting grid before we get going here, making their final adjustments before they get rumbling here in Norway.
Nobody? Me? Okay. Let's get ready to rumble!
Excellent.
That came out of nowhere. My
Thank
goodness. Was not expecting that, but these drivers now getting ready for the green lights. It looks like one driver may not make it to the starting grid here, it appears. That'll be Tom Durailing, who does not make it to the grid. The rest of the drivers, though, do. Green lights are out, we're underway, and one driver doesn't go. Matthew Thunhorst did not go to start off this race. One driver takes the Joker. That's the Team Mad car once more of Hanson Pete, who does. The rest of the field off and away, all with Kurt Crum leading them.
Yeah, big mistake by Thunhorst there. Just didn't get away at all. Big contact. The hockey car has gone around.
And the slapshot machine getting slapped around that time towards the back of the grouping to 5th position for now. The Hanson Brothers racing car.
That's 2 minutes for tripping.
And the hockey references keep on coming. He nearly tripped up over top of Matthew Thunhorst, gliding through that corner as they complete the first lap. Who will take the Joker this time? The answer is George Gruber. This is all wow. He'll be also joined by Colin Martzoff. It's Matthew Thunhorst also taking the Joker that time as well.
I think the person that's advantaged the most actually is Pete Harrod, because he was able to avoid all of that by taking his Joker on the first lap. And of course he obviously lost track position, but now he's cycled ahead of 2 of his main competitors. He's given himself a great chance at going through here.
Great opportunity, has already got himself within range of the Hanson Brothers racing machine. A bit aggressive on the curbing that time. And we'll see how the time fares out for Hanson Pete. He's taking a little bit of that time slow up right here in the middle of the corner. And that bunches him right up with Gruber and Thunhorst once more. Looking for the back end right now, as you can see how much they're taking the bumps and missing the bottom that time, side by side.
That's a very good exit, and it'll be interesting to see. No, Gruber not quite able to take advantage, but you can see him working Harold all the time, working Handsome Pete and going for the over-under, but hitting there, and they got Thornhorst as well right behind them. Thornhorst losing a bit of time. He's got the pace, but he had that bad start, and here you can see why that start is so important in rallycross, because if you don't get a good start, it's very, very difficult to find those overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, you just don't have many laps to get it done, and actually both of them go wide. Thornhorst to the inside, he's able to slot between them. Whether he's going to hold on to that, he's getting turned around, he's not.
And how about that? Gas it up and go in that sequence for Gruber right into the fender of Thunhorst. And Matthew, of course, not happy on the radio. As we're down to the final lap, Kurt Crum taking his Joker along with Joshua Wolf. Where will Handsome Pete fare out is the question. Still behind him. And behind him by at least a couple seconds as Kurt Crum continues to try and pull off and away. A dominating run for Kurt Crum after what has been a very action-packed middle of the pack for many of these competitors. Kurt Crum looking to settle it on down one final corner. A major slow up this time as he'll move on, all while the craziness continues behind him. Handsome Pete among the drivers in the pushing and shoving with Wolf in second.
A big gain on that last lap by Harrod. He did come out of the Joker just ahead of Marsolf. Marsolf got in the back of him, but kind of gave the position back. And then when that happened, Gruber was involved, and obviously everybody kind of checking each other up. Actually allowed Pete Harrod to get away and steal that third position.
Very action-packed, that respective grouping. So once again is Crum, Wolf, Handsome Pete, Martzoff, Gruber, Thunhorst, Drelling, who will line up in the respective groupings for this second race.
Oof. I mean, that was... I hope the second race is a little bit cleaner. I mean, I went to a fight and a rallycross race broke out. That's the first heat in a nutshell. Gonna be interesting to see if anyone can challenge Crum a little bit better on this one, because it was such a close group, and I'm expecting to see more from Josh Wolf, for example.
I'm curious to see what Wolf can do as well. He looked fairly quick in his respective run. As you see these drivers all getting ready to go. With no Tom Drelling here in the field, that means that we do have about a minute or so before they get rolling. They have now got the trigger to be able to get ready for the grid, though. Here we go. Green lights are out, off and away. Great launch from Kurt Crum as well as Handsome Pete as they go off to the corner. Handsome Pete getting contact from Thunhorst as they both took the Joker. Crum, meanwhile, continues to defend the rest of the group.
Yeah, Harrod going with the exact same strategy as last time, but Thunhorst was kind of shoving him off into the corner as well.
Oh, one
big
driver.
contact.
That's Joshua Wolf, who got launched off the ground for a moment. He keeps on going, though, and that costs him a lot of time. About a second and a half lost as a result of that contact in the middle of the corner. And now it's the matter of can Wolf close back up the distance. Remember, he and Crum waited until the last lap to use their Joker in the first race. Just moments ago, no one taking the Joker this time.
And I don't see the advantage for drivers like Crum, Wolf, and Gruber to take the Joker early on, because those guys, Marshall, Harold, and Thunhorst, are still so close, as Gruber is now getting by and Wolf losing another position. He can't keep it to the inside. I wonder if that's a Subaru problem, the car being a little bit too cumbersome for this tight and narrow hell track, or if it's more of a Wolf problem, starting to lose his focus a little bit. Either way, Gruber's through, and I'm not expecting any of these top three to go to the Joker up until the last lap, or when Martsolf, Harold, and Thunhorst pull the trigger first. I think these guys are being held hostage a little bit, but watch for that gap race. Once Crum gets info that, okay, he can get ahead of Martsolf from the Joker, I think he's gonna pull the trigger right away.
Take a look at that respective grouping. They are very busy right now, with Martzoff leading that respective grouping 38-4 last time for Harold Thunhorst also keeping within range, a little bit wide now as Thunhorst makes contact. They start spinning around. Martzov gets collected. He gets spun around to the bottom of the racetrack. And some major contact and more tempers flaring as Thunhorst is pulled out.
Yeah, I mean, that right there, I think Thunhorst started to turn him and then just kind of kept pushing him down the track. I think he expected to straighten him back up, but it just wasn't happening. And then, unfortunately for Pete Herod, he ended up involved in that through really no fault of his own. And I think that's totally decided it, you know? I mean, Herod's lost so much time, even with all three of these guys taking the Joker. He's not going to be back there, so it's going to be an interesting points position, though, because Gruber is looking like he might go through here.
It's going to be very interesting as those drivers now take the Joker on the white flag lap. Gruber staying within range of Wolf in this group. But it's Kirk Crum who has been able to keep himself clean and hasn't really been busy too much when it comes to the traffic around. Everyone else started bringing up sparks right behind and has taken advantage since then. Kirk Crum goes 2 for 2 as he'll take the checker flag and win once more in Norway. Gruber holds on to second position with Wolf in third spot. Hanson Pete in fourth. Martzov having an adventure in the fifth position. Thunhorst and Drelling among the drivers who will not finish in this race. Drelling did not start either of the qualifying races. Thunhorst 2 laps down from his respective incident.
Yeah, we'll have to check to see how this works because there does appear to be a tie, I think. Pete Herod was on 5 before this final race, and Gruber was on 3, and they've essentially done an inversion. No, sorry, not Gruber. It was Joshua Wolf. So we'll have to take a look at how that works out. I'm trying to sum up 4 different people's points in about 2 seconds here. It's not going well.
Yeah, the tiebreaker, as you know, is the best race finish, or so we've been told. But what if that's the same? Are they gonna look at the best laps, or are they just gonna improvise on the spot? I think we're gonna see some interesting discussions about that. And you know, Justin, I'm glad I'm not part of those discussions because they are never easy.
Let those drivers sort things out and let things get sorted out as we get ready for the next grouping of drivers. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel here from the Virtual Norway. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Norway for more coverage of the major series in its European region Pro Split for what has been an interesting wildcard round for dirt racing action here on GSRC. Getting ready for grouping number 4. Can let you know that in grouping 3 it was Kurt Krum, George Gruber, and Joshua Wolf who were able to advance with 20, 10, and 12 points respectively. The first driver out, Handsome Pete. That's going to be a major shakeup for the points, to say the very least. It's been an interesting round in terms of that for drivers overall. So in our words, the pressure is on this final group in for Tim Claessens to be able to have a strong performance here today.
And it's another tight group as well. We got the top 5 separated by, again, 4 tenths, and Tim Claessens is not the fastest driver for once. It's not often we can say that. So, I mean, he's close, but Ryan Mayer actually has the qualifying time right now. So, there's a couple of fast drivers again in this race. I think for myself, the 2 specific drivers I'm going to keep an eye on, obviously Tim for championship points, but Riley Thompson, we've talked about him a ton this season, and unfortunately it's mostly been how fast he's been, but actually unable to complete races for various reasons or another. And maybe this time it's different with a short race. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Curious if the steering wheel is all good to go after some of the technical issues he's been dealing with that wheel. But it's Ryan Mayer who has a lot of dirt experience, to say the very least, on the sim, who is at the top of the board by about 100th of a second. Ryan Mayer, of course, running in iRacing World of Outlaws pro competition for the past couple of years or so. So that experience we've seen coming on over into the rallycross side as well. That's going to be very valuable as a result here on C4 today.
It absolutely is, but it's also very different. It can be a little bit deceiving because the way these cars handle these rallycross cars handle due to the tires can be very deceiving compared to the amounts of grip that the dirt oval cars have, because the dirt oval cars have different sorts of tires. It all comes down to that, so they have much more grip, whereas the rallycross cars, as Christian can attest to probably, because you've driven this a lot as well, or have driven it at least a little bit and have tested it and so on and so forth, there is absolutely no grip on gravel whatsoever, so that can really surprise you. So as a result of that, whereas in dirt oval you usually go for those massive slip angles and the optimal slip angle is much higher, in rallycross the optimal slip angle is usually very low, and it can look that these guys, especially the fast guys, are going more straight than you'd anticipate and you'd expect, and I think Mayers is doing a good job of that so far.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, and I think it's true to say that the fastest drivers we see on dirt, and especially with RX and even going through to real life with WRC cars and whatnot, the fastest drivers are the ones that actually don't look the most spectacular. Being hung out at massive angles is not fast. You're just losing forward drive when you're doing it. Obviously, it's necessary in some cases for very, very tight hairpins. That's where you see them using handbrake and whatnot. But especially in long sweeping corners, it's not what you want. You're just losing forward drive doing it. So I totally agree that it's a different deal. I think the outright experience on the dirt segments is valuable, and there is a degree of transfer. But you know, the bit that gets me for rallycross is kind of the constant crossing back and forth between pavement and dirt.
Let's head on over to our starting grid on that note. Ryan Mayer on the pole for race 1 of our qualifying races. Tim Claessens, Riley Thompson, Patrick Sakowicz, along with Brian Barnes and Jeff Meyer, will round out the 6 drivers, Mayer I should rather say, in this respective grouping. So all our competitors just about ready to go. Of note, Ross Banfield was a 7th driver scheduled for this group. He did not make this grouping. A super fast time overall for Mayer on the pylon, by the way, as well. He put up a 37.4 at the end of qualifying. Some of the drivers, though, had turn times as quick as 37.1s in practice. We'll see how things fare out as all the drivers have made their way to the grid. All the drivers are rumbling on forward with their engines. All the drivers waiting for the green lights to go out. And the green lights are out, off and away we go. Looking to squeeze it up the middle with Sakowicz, and he spins around Mayer in front of the field. Mayer gets involved off to the apron. One driver drives through a fence as off and away they go.
Yeah, disastrous start for Mayer right there, and a great start for Masik Sakowicz. He was able to get a huge jump, but that's going to really make it difficult for Mayer to go through. I think we should expect to see him contend for the win in the second round, but this has opened the door to the possibility of the outright fastest driver not going through to the final.
Absolutely huge, to say the very least, as Tim Klassen's saying, hello, I'm here for the battle for the race lead. After that, he goes for a massive send to the Joker. My goodness, nearly launched it off into the hillside trying to go for the Joker. Normally we've seen that move on the outside, but not from the inside like that, making it look like he was going for the dive bomb at first. But Sakowicz is still holding on to the race lead for now.
Wow, so lots of action so far. Sakowicz, as you said, is leading. We got Riley Thompson second. Let's see if he can keep his nerves in check. He's been very, very inconsistent, as was mentioned earlier throughout the season, where he's got the pace, but he doesn't necessarily have the consistency nor the results to show for that pace. But right now he's in a good position.
And Sakowicz just took the Joker and spun it around in the middle of the hillside. He nearly hit the advertising boards, taking a bit of the curbing. So there goes that time. And then some for Sakowicz. All the mistakes starting to build up. He's right next to Ryan Mayer. Riley Thompson is now in the race lead as a result of this for now, coming up to a couple laps to go.
Yeah, that was a great help, I think, for Ryan Mayer right there. That's going to give him the opportunity to just get that one extra point, and I think it's going to be invaluable to do it. So expect to see that a hard-fought battle back there.
No Joker for Thompson this time, as now Klassen's holding on in front of Brian Barnes for the time being. Coming up to the white flag this time by. Some beautiful shots and beautiful action when it comes to some of this scenery here at this racetrack. But the question is Thompson's gap big enough to be able to hold on in front of Klassen's? We'll have to wait and see. Has to slow down a lot this time to the final corner as he takes the white.
Yeah, I wonder, Justin, if he's finally found his discipline. Thompson, I mean. Should probably change his name to Riley Cross Thompson.
I like it. I like
very
it.
punny. How about this? He's not gonna like this! He gets spun around! Tim Klassen's passes on by! Brian Barnes makes the move with a wow!
We have done some commentators' curse in the past, but I don't think we've ever done that. And right there, behind, was that Barnes spinning around?
Yes! The Dog Bear Red Machine spinning around. Tim Klassen's in one of the wildest rallycross races of the day so far. We'll take the first qualifying race. My goodness, what a finish.
And Mayer's gonna sneak second as well.
Incredible. What a recovery for Mayer as he knocks down the Joker boards. Brian Barnes in third, Sakowicz, or rather in third. Thompson, Schmeyer, Barnes will be how they line up. My goodness is the main reaction I have to say after all of that. And that brings us into the preparation for our final qualifying race.
I think I must apologize to Riley Thompson right about now. I did not know I have supernatural powers. I thought I was a muggle, but apparently not.
I see what you're saying there, but these drivers either way are getting ready for what should be an intriguing final qualifying race. Once again, Klassen's Mayer, Sakowicz, Thompson, Mayer, Barnes, those 6 drivers who are getting ready to go. We're just waiting on the last of the competitors to make their way to the track. That's Mayer that we're waiting on before they get the green lights to be able to go off and away. The first race had fireworks in this group, and then some. Will the fireworks continue? Let's find out. Schmeyer does not make it to the grid. Green lights are out, off and away. Klassen's with a good launch on the inside line. Big send for Sakowicz going straight for the Joker. Barnes goes with them. Mayer takes the inside curbing hard. He still goes side by side though, forced to check up though for the switchback, nearly into Klassens' left rear tire.
Yeah, and a good job by both Klassens and Mayer to kind of navigate those first two corners. Obviously, very different cars and very different kind of strengths and weaknesses right there. Mayer's got a big run now coming up to the top of the hill here. He's maybe going to get this done on the outside. He is.
That's worked a few times for the Subarus today, as now Klassens trying to take advantage of a big bobble with that bigger car though. Mayer does now come onto the racetrack just behind all of this. And right in front, I should rather say, will take the Joker straight up. Mayer misses the corner, though. Klassens will hold on to it. Riley Thompson joins the conversation for the fight as they make contact in front. Big save once more from Klassens.
Yeah, and Riley Thompson needs those positions. He absolutely does, because he was fourth last time around, had the win in his hands, managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. So now he needs those positions.
Klassens nearly jumps his way over top the racetrack there for a split second. Coming up now, 3 to go, this time at the stripe. As now, big send for Klassens, nearly into Mayer again, my goodness. He is very bold in that Joker, I will say, as he takes Thompson with him. The thing is...
I mean, he has to be.
Absolutely.
He's gone too much, though. He's gone way too deep.
Once again, another mistake, and Tim Klassens holding on to the battle for position, but it was Sakowicz who was able to jump ahead of them. That's the critical part.
They're losing so much time here. They're losing so much time. That's time they cannot afford to lose. Mayer is running away with the race as a result of that, and they're stuck behind Sakowicz.
Absolutely huge, as Mayer sets the fastest lap of 37.6 so far. Sakowicz now pulling away from the rest of the grouping as Klassens holds on to that third position for now. Riley Thompson needs valuable positions. Ryan Barnes, Mayer rounding up the drivers in their lineup at the moment. Thompson trying to go for the move on Klassens, not able to get the slide.
Yeah, they're kind of stringing out just a little bit, but this is bad news for Thompson. He needs to get up there and he needs to get ahead of Sakowicz, because at the moment it looks like the 3 drivers going through is going to be Mayer, Sakowicz, and Klassens.
Ryan Mayer taking the Joker on the white flag lap this time. So now it's the question, where will Sakowicz fare out? Answer is 10 car lengths back once more. Once more, that Subaru seems very powerful once it gets some clean space based on what we've seen. Of course, keep in mind, Mayer ran in international action, which is his normal discipline with the sprint cars, rather, when it comes to the dirt side of things. He runs in this division. Was second in the Chili Bowl yesterday in the Major Series competition. Ryan Mayer, checker flag waves. He takes the second qualifying race. Sakowicz in second, Klassens in third. Thompson, Barnes, and Mayer, the 6 drivers lined up in this respective grouping.
Another very tight group, and I think the big casualty from that one not going through is Riley Thompson, and the surprise is Sakowicz, who's very, very strong.
Absolutely. It's going to make things very intriguing now for the points, though, with how things shook up for 2nd through 4th with some of that battling and bumping and banging here, Ozzy.
Absolutely so, and Riley Thompson, once again, you got to feel for him. He had it in his grasp and then lost it at the last lap of the first heat, got 4th place on this heat, and he's going to be eliminated. He absolutely had the pace today once again, but just couldn't find his way through. But Ryan Mayer, I must say, they were 2 very tough heats, but no wonder he did so well in Chili Bowl last night, because, man, he can absolutely deal with things spicy.
Absolutely can. Christian and Ozzy indeed. With that, we'll take a quick break. Semi-final action coming up after this for the Major Series here from Norway. Welcome back to the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of the Major Series in its European Region Pro Split for what's been some intriguing dirt wildcard action, and boy oh boy has it been a wild card for some of these drivers today. It has been intriguing how some of the battles have fared out. The drivers who move on from Grouping 4, by the way, Ryan Mayer, Tim Klassens, and Magic Sakowicz with 17, 15, and 12 points respectively. Turn to you first, Christian, as this is now going to be the big part of the show. The semifinals coming up. Very important for drivers once they get rolling here to be able to have a clean run and have a strong run here. They have the next few minutes to be able to practice, then qualifying comes up for 4 solo qualifying laps, and it's not been easy so far, especially the past couple groupings.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the qualifying and how that kind of splits these down into the semi-finals is really going to make a big difference. Obviously, if we see very strong groupings of drivers together, like we have for a couple of group stages, that's really going to have the opportunity to knock some people out before they get through to the final. Obviously, we lost Riley Thompson in the prior round, Pete Harrod in Group 3, as well as Matthew Thunhorst went out. So, you know, Isaac Snyder went out in Group 2, and these are all drivers that are featured at the front of the field in various races this season and seasons past. So I think this is both a good opportunity to gain points this round, but also a really big banana skin, so to speak, to lose a lot of points. You know, I think Tim Klassens actually did a really good job, and actually the best points job in his group he won the first round, but obviously it was a pretty fraught race, and the second one he just bagged the points to advance through to the semi, and I think that's the way to approach it, and I think that's actually going to be the way to approach the semi-final as well. The goal is just to get to the final, just to minimize points damage, especially if you know this isn't your kind of primary discipline.
As these drivers continue to get themselves some final warm-ups together and make their way onto the racetrack here, let's get the opportunity to look through the rest of the point standings. We already viewed earlier the pro standings entering today and how tight things fared out in there. The sportsman standings are also very tight. Dan Fasci-Ponti and Sean Brown separated by 15 points. Mike Gaunt, Eric Freak separated by 24 points. Brian Boomstra and Brandon Klunge rounding out the top 5 in the sportsman standings entering today. The legend drivers, meanwhile, Richie Hearn came into today 11 points back of David Baker, with Ray Partridge, Bob Beltrami tied at 28 points. Claude Valval, Rob Gall rounding out the top 5 in the legend standings. For legend sports standings action, it's Colin Ward over Jay Brony, with Wolf Dietrich Hotho in third position, 6 points behind. Peter Dahlmeyer, 8 points behind in fourth. Simon Thorns rounding out the top 5 in the legend sports standings. And that takes us to our team standings here, Christian, where things have been fairly tight as well, especially between Grizzly TFR and Bombshell this season.
Yeah, we're very used to seeing the two Grizzly teams top the standings in both first and second, but the Bombshell Racing team is actually slotted in there into second. Is only 15 points behind Grizzly TFR Daytona, who are on 728. TFR Le Mans have fallen back just a little bit. I mean, it's really not a lot in the context of things, but that grouping at the top 3 is just so tight that that's dropped them back to third, 26 points off the lead. Significantly further back, we got Doug Bear Europe in 122 points back, and then Team Mad, who are probably going to lose more points today with Pete Harrod not making it through to the semi-final, are 255 points back in 5th. But moving to Team Sportsman, we have my favorite long-named team of all time, Missed Apex F1 Podcast Team 1, still the leaders with 503 points. Substantial margin actually back to second place, Hanson Brothers Racing, 146 points back. HW Racing, though, only 6 points behind them, 152 back. And Grizzly TFR Daytona Jr. Still in 4th in the standings at 208 points back, and my second favorite long team name, Missed Apex F1 Podcast Team B, are 232 points off the lead in 5th.
That's a look at the rest of those standings for all of these different classes taking part today in what's been an exceptionally entertaining wild card action of festivities. Under 5 minutes to go in practice before we reach our way through qualifying. Track conditions: 65 degrees is the air temp, 89 degrees is the track temp. Fahrenheit. Winds gusting to the southwest at 9 miles an hour. That's 18 degrees Celsius. Air temp 32 degrees Celsius. Track temperature today 14 kilometers to the southwest. Those respective winds. that are changing and shifting around to about the west as this session goes on. 66% humidity as well, so fairly humid on June 20th, 2021 in sim day for our competitors just past 2 p.m. But the biggest question, Aussie, now comes into the minds of many others. Can anyone stop the man that was dominant in his group and was one of the favorites for many different drivers, Dallas Pataska?
Well, we have also Krum and Mike, who were very dominant in their groups as well. And don't forget Meyer, who had an absolutely brilliant performance, especially in qualifying time. So there's gonna be a lot of competition here, of course there is. Now, in practice, it's actually Claessens who's so far fastest, but only by a couple of thousandths of a second. So it's very tight so far. Now, another thing that I am going to bring up is that both Claessens and Pataska are Ford drivers. Then we got Sam Harper in a Subaru, Wolf in a Subaru as well, Gruber in a Ford. We don't have a single Beetle in this one. I don't think we got a single Beetle in this particular semi-final, and that's quite surprising.
I believe Sackowicz is in a Beetle, to correct you there.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Whew.
So some good representation when it comes to some of these manufacturers. We've seen how quick the Subaru has been in the second half of the racetrack compared to the Ford in the first half of the circuit. That's going to be interesting. Sam Harper, third on the board, following along with him at the moment, and looking to try and sing along from that race car. We already talked about the dashboard and the never gonna give you up. Not gonna sing the rest of that for you in that car. He's looking to carry some good momentum for this race here, Christian.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think with just the dashboard alone, you know, it's you got to pull for him and hope he gets through the final, just so that we can see the onboard from that. But I'm really surprised at the pace that Sackowicz has shown, and I've obviously got to play a bit of favoritism there because he's the one driver in the Beetle, and I love to see all the cars go through to the final. So kind of pulling for him as well. But I mean, genuinely just surprised by the pace that he showed through the group stages. Was very, very, very strong, actually stronger than I was expecting him to be. So I think we kind of have the usual contenders at the front in a sense with Pataska and Claessens, but you know, we've got other drivers who we don't normally talk about. Obviously Meyer has come from international, and we know that he's very, very fast. The practice time right now is a little bit of a lie, I would say. We know he's not 7/10 off the pace, that's for sure, but it's going to be very, very tight, I think, especially when we get through to qualifying. And in the group stages, the qualifying has mattered, but I don't think it's mattered to the extent that it's about to, because that position, I mean, in a way, you either want to be on the pole or you want to be last. And I say that because if you're on the pole, you've got the inside, and that's going to give you the best chance of taking the normal line through turn 1 and 2 and maybe being able to break away. Or you want to be last so that you can go to the outside and take the Joker right away. The other position that you potentially want to be is either third, you know, so that you're on that front row and you can do that same deal. But you don't want to be in the middle is really what I'm trying to get at, because you have the most limited number of options. You know that you're going to be in the battle through turn 1 and 2, and you know that you're going to lose time there. So it's critical to either go for the pole or kind of hope that you sort of luck into an outside lane to take the Joker right off the bat.
Yeah, and I think to add to what Christian said, I think space and real estate is gonna be on an absolute premium. Think a corner kick inside the box. You're gonna need all that space, especially at the start of the race, and you're gonna need clean track in order to put in those lap times, because that pace is not gonna matter if you're behind someone and can't get through.
Drivers have now finished up their practice session. The quickest driver in terms of times was Dallas Pataska, 37.4. Ryan Mayer, Tim Claessens, Trevor Borowski, Kurt Krum rounding out the top 5 in session. But already drivers have made their way out for qualifying. Eric Mickey among the first of the competitors to hit the racetrack and get rolling for their respective warm-ups. Again, 4 laps, 6 minutes to work with this time, rather than 7 in the previous sessions. And then we go heat racing. And how it will work for the semifinals/finals is the top 3 from each of the semifinals in this respective grouping will make the final. So, In other words, you must keep yourself clean, and we've seen how crazily busy those respective qualifying races got. And we already talked about the value of the track position. It's going to be very valuable to make sure you don't get yourself involved in major incidents today as well, Ozzy, in this semi-final if you want to make the final.
Absolutely so, and major incidents is just about right. This is the Euro Majors Pro after all, but in all seriousness, like keeping your nose clean, and that's a whole different skill set. And once again, I want to actually pick Kristen's brain about this just a little. You know, keeping your nose clean, it sounds obvious in racing, like, you know, let's all go safely into turn one, I'm just here for SR, and so on and so forth, you know. To finish first, you must first finish. We know all the cliches, but it's easier said than done, especially in rallycross, and especially as you accelerate, and then you get that choker in turn number one, you get a tight right-hander, and after that you get a tight left-hander, and we've seen so many incidents, not necessarily in turn number one, but more so in turn number two, and that's coming back to one of the things you mentioned. You would want to be either first or last, but if you do end up starting fourth or fifth, what do you do? How do you keep yourself clean? Do you just take it conservative, take it steady, slowly into turn number one, or do you try to attack and think that offense is your best defense?
Well, I think it comes down to exactly which lane you're in. Obviously, if you're, well, I say lane, and I'm more talking kind of the stacked lanes that you have on the start. So if you're in second on the outside, I think there's a hope that the person who's third and furthest left is going to take the joker. So you can kind of run into one expecting to have that outside lane, and then I guess my play would be to try and maintain at least on the inside of the leader if possible, into turn two, and hope somebody doesn't run you over from behind. But if you're on the second row, then obviously, yeah, it's a little bit different. I think if you're sixth, you go to the outside, you take the joker. I think the difficult spot is really going to be fifth. If you're fourth, you can just follow the leader and hope that he kind of clears the path for you. You can maybe even sneak past the second place car, but the fifth place car is in a real bind because he's got no options really. He's kind of beholden to the second place car getting a good drive, I would say. And if he doesn't, then he's stuck behind. He's going to lose time to the probable two cars that are going to take the joker. And there's not really a lot you can do about it, to be honest. As you say, the goal, obviously, you got to keep the nose clean. But the thing that's become obvious to me is you can make it much worse by being aggressive here, because if you're just following a car that's slow, okay, you lose time. If you hit the car and you turn them sideways, that's when we've seen everybody lose a ton of time, because you're either straightening them back up, you're trying to get away from them, or any combination of the above, and potentially a spin for yourself. So I think you do have to be careful. If you can make it to the second lap but be close enough to somebody you can maybe attempt to pass into turn one, I think that's the play from the back row. But obviously, best option is don't be on the back row, you know, qualify good. Start on the front. Give yourself options.
Absolutely.
And right now, Dallas Pataska is the best of the drivers in qualifying. Ryan Mayer in second, separated by a tenth of a second. Then you have Sam Harper, Tim Clatson's George Gruber on the board. Gruber coming across for his final lap, a 38 flat. His best time, a 37.818. The pole time still a 37.398. The only drivers not setting time so far are Kurt Crum, Luis Butekwas, who's currently dealing with technical issues, and his 666 machine. So we'll see how those respective drivers fare out if they can get some times in. Pataska, a bit slower on his fourth and final lap. Cordell Colon spins it out around the racetrack. He's at the bottom of the board and finished up his respective run. Looking to have some fun after his respective run. And now, 1 minute to go until we reach heat racing time. Drivers looking to bump up their times. Ryan Mayer, Kurt Crum. Crum is up to 6th. Mayer needs to find a 10th. Can he find the 10th here? No. 37.6. Kurt Crum looking to try and bump up some more time. Only in the 38-second bracket. Might be able to get one more lap. It's going to be very tight, though, for him, with 30 seconds left on the clock. So overall, intriguing qualifying session. I think Crum may run out of time here, though, before the end of his qualifying run here. So I want to turn to you, Christian, here. For the heat race itself coming up, or rather the qualifying races, or rather the semifinals, I should rather say, coming up, your expectations then?
My expectation is that we see both Pataska and Maya go through. Obviously, it's a bit of a different game than we've seen in the group stages because it's a one-shot deal. But Pataska and Maya having the pole for their semifinals, that gives them a big advantage if they can make it round turn 2. I think it pretty much seals the deal for them going through. Further back, I think the guys that are in a dangerous spot, Eric Mickey, Joshua Wolf, Trevor Vorovsky, Sakowicz actually is further back than I thought he would be. I think those are the ones who are kind of in the danger zone.
Here's a look at how qualifying fared out once again. The drivers, how they're sorted out is going to be the ones you see on the left side of your screen for Heat 1, right side of the screen for Heat 2. So Pataska, Harper, Gruber, Mickey, Wolf among the drivers who will be in Heat number 1. Mayer, Klassens, Crum, Vorovsky, Sakowicz among the drivers who will be in Heat number 2. The rest of the drivers, once again, towards respective groupings will be Cologne and Puteklis. But with that, all the drivers have made their way to the grid already for Heat number 1. It's time to give the land rush on forward. Let's get ready to go racing here from Norway once more. Green flag is out, we're underway. A good launch once more from all the drivers. Already 3 wide as several go and take the Joker. Half the field does, half the field doesn't.
Yep, that's Gruber, Wolf, and Cologne on the choker.
Both of them able to execute it very smoothly as well. Not too much time loss for any of those drivers. So now it's the matter of how it fares out for the other competitors. Pataska very quick off the corner. Ray pulling away by 5 car lengths from Eric Mickey. Sam Harper trying to keep within range as well.
And I think this is the best possible situation actually for the 3 who didn't take the Joker because they haven't been fighting. They've kind of fanned out very, very quickly. Pataska has obviously gone away. He's taken the Joker on lap 2. I'm surprised he's done that. I really thought he would wait until the very end of the race because now he's potentially going to have to pass cars. But he has come out in a position that would advance him through.
Good positioning, but Harper meanwhile did not come out into one of those positions. He came out 4th in the line of cars. Now has to try and make a move on Joshua Wolf. George Gruber currently net 2nd. Mickey the only driver now amongst these front competitors who have not taken the Joker so far.
Yeah, and very intriguing Eric Mickey's strategy now. He's obviously gonna save it until the last lap, and I think that's gonna be very, very crucial for his race strategy because Harper and Wolf, they're fighting right now and they might potentially catch up to Gruber as well. So if those guys fight, they're gonna lose time, and that's gonna allow Mickey to potentially get into one of those transfer spots. As for Pataska, I think he was confident that he was gonna get out ahead of everybody else from the choker, and he's also trusting Eric Mickey's pace in that he is not goofing around, but taking that pace straight to Pluto and gonna stay ahead, or so far ahead that Pataska's not gonna catch him up until Mickey takes the choker and falls behind him.
Here's the tough part though. Pataska is already within 2 seconds of Mickey, having already taken the Joker after setting the fastest lap time you've seen, a 37.8. He's been very consistent on his marks. In fact, Pataska may have the chance to pass by Mickey before Mickey has the chance to take the Joker here, coming up to 2 laps to go.
Yeah, possibly, but I think that Mickey has got enough to, if he wants to stay out there for that extra lap. But the real battle is actually for 3rd. Sam Harper is all over the back of Gruber. It looks like he might be able to execute the pass. I fully expect Mickey's going to drop back into 2nd. So I think that the job is done by him, and I think Pataska is going to take the lead, and that'll be that for the top 2 spots. But 3rd on back is anybody's game.
Indeed, right now looking at that battle, Harper has the opportunity to the inside. Gruber with the squeeze though. Hold on to the position for now. Harper not able to dice his way on forward still. Remember, Harper started 2nd in this respective grouping. Let it roll a little bit more for the white flag this time by. Of note, Mickey has taken the Joker. Where will he cycle with these drivers? It will be close with this group. In fact, right side by side with Gruber. Gruber forced to check up. Can Harper take advantage? No. Door-to-door contact for second. Holding on to it is Mickey for now. Gruber holds on to third as Harper now goes to the high line. He nearly gets hit by Joshua Wolf. All of this is while Dallas Pataska has pulled away from the group. Dallas Pataska will take the checkered flag in the heat as Eric Mickey and George Gruber hold on. Pataska takes the checkered. Second, Mickey, Gruber third.
Yeah, and Harper.
Before, behind.
Yeah, Wolf and Harper, I think it was.
Yeah, it looked like Wolf tried to get by on the uphill and just tagged them both into a spin.
It's kind of unfortunate for that situation. Harper in fourth, Wolf, Cologne rounding out the 6 drivers in that respective heat. As already the air drivers were making their way to the grid for heat for the semifinal number 2. See that on the tower now as it's Mayer, Klassens, Krum, Vrosky, I should rather say, Sakowicz, and Putekos, who will be the 6 drivers in this respective grouping. Drivers will have the next few moments to be able to make their way onto the racetrack, to be able to get rolling. All the drivers are ready. All the drivers are now steady, and all the drivers will now get the green lights. Green lights are out, we're underway, and a great launch for Tim Klassens. Right up the middle. Well, where will he go? He'll go straight to the Joker. Take Kurt Krum along with one more with them. That's Udis Putekos who goes with. Ryan Mayer does not take the Joker along with Vrosky and Sakowicz. Those drivers stay on circuit to start off the action.
Yeah, and once again, a complete split of 3 drivers taking the Joker and 3 don't. Mayer nearly got turned around there. That's really checks up the 3 that didn't take it. Sakowicz is going to the inside. He's going to get up in his second ahead of Vavrovsky. And he made one of the worst starts of the group, and he's already up to second.
Incredible to say the very least. The rest of the drivers, as a result of that checkup, are already nearly right back up to where those air competitors are. Major slide by Mayer on the pavement, nearly spinning around, loses a spot. Sakowicz now to the race lead for now. Has been more contact to the tire that time from Mayer.
Yeah, and now it's gonna be very, very much advantage Kurt Krum, but he needs to also get the overtakes done. Now he's stuck in that same battle pack, and it's gonna be a good thing in terms of advancing, because he's in exactly that position he needs to be. He's gonna win this race once these guys come to the choker, unless he gets caught up battling and caught behind Vavrovsky, who for some reason would be much slower than anyone else expects. And here goes Sakowicz to the choker, and that just might be the right call, you know.
And able to take Vrosky with them, but Kurt Krum cycles ahead of them. Klassens does as well. Now makes it what is a 4-car train for those competitors at the moment. Separation between Mayer and Krum, though, it's only about 10 car lengths or so between those respective competitors. Halfway this time.
I'm surprised that Mayer hasn't looked stronger this race. Obviously made a mistake, allowed Sakowicz to take the lead, but you know, it's just not actually shown the pace that he did in the heat. As he sets the fastest lap, of course.
Well,
but I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, just has been struggling a little bit more compared to the first race in terms of the pace, it seems. But now it's the matter, though, of can Mayer cycle himself into a transfer spot? That's the most critical point of this, with 2 laps to go.
I think he's barely close enough, but he's also overdriving it. You could see it on the couple of the fast SS as you go over the hill, the dirt section. You could really see him just overdriving it a little bit, getting a little bit too wide. And I think he's, you know, falling into that old mistake of knowing that he's in a tight position, so he's trying harder, and he's trying too hard when he should be staying, you know, smooth and consistent. So he's just a little bit, you can see it once again, going in a whale of a slide and just barely keeping it off the wall there.
Yeah, but Kurt Krum behind has made a big mistake. He's actually got, I think, Vavrovsky to his inside.
Oh, and Sakowicz around as well for the white flag, side by side. Meanwhile, for currently second position, Krum gives space to Klassens, goes for the switchback and makes contact instead. off around the cones, sends the cones flying, they scatter apart, as already Mayer has taken the Joker, and because of all that contact, Mayer has cycled ahead by 2 seconds. Incredible, to say the very least once more. Ryan Mayer will benefit from all that trouble from behind to the final corner. Ryan Mayer, checker flag waves, he moves on. He'll take what was an eventful Tim Klassens and Kirk Crum with them for that fight. Bobrovsky, the first driver out. Sakowicz after trouble in 5th. Uteklis in 6th position. And that takes us to the finals, which is expected to be very busy as a result of what we've seen from some very busy racing action. It's Pataska, Mayer, Mickey, Klassens, Gruber, and Crum, the 6 drivers who have made it this far.
Klassens in that dangerous 4th spot, along with Gruber next to him in 5th.
All right, you see some of the drivers getting their way onto the grid. Just one more remaining. Klassens, you see at viewpoint, it will have a car coming to his left. Already the drivers wishing themselves good luck as we're ready to go. Green lights wait. Off and away we go. The finals are underway for the Major Series from Norway. And Pataska, great launch, a major send from Mickey off to the Joker. He'll take Kirk Crum with him as Pataska holds on to the net lead for now. A bit of contact for second. Klassens bumper to bumper with Mayer.
Yeah, that's a big advantage to Pataska there, them stacking up behind. Mayer getting shuffled as well is going to help him out. Even more contact for Mayer, losing even more time here.
He got moved out of the way by Gruber.
Yeah, and getting payback as well. And Mayer is way wide. He's gonna lose a lot of time of that one, hitting Gruber, and as a result of that, losing a lot of time himself. And now he was all the way to the grass to the outside.
Yeah, he's going to have to be seriously fast to account for that, and I just don't see it, not with 6 laps. It looked like he was a little bit unhappy with Gruber and then went for a little bit of a move himself, and it just didn't come off, ended up actually making things worse for himself. Pataska actually has maybe made his own mistake. He's going to get a slowdown penalty for that.
He had already taken the Joker this lap. That's why he was where he was at. Now, he's losing valuable time, and after very dominating performances in his heat races, the qualifying runs, as well now, time penalties coming into play. He had to let Mickey go, Kirk Crum go. Pataska having a disastrous finals after being dominant all day.
Guys, I think Tim Klassens might win this.
I think so too, and that would be the most unremarkable thing and remarkable thing at the same time, because to say Tim Klassens is going to win a majors race is not really unexpected, but I don't think he's been the fastest driver at all today. I think that there's been 2, maybe even 3 drivers out there who've been quicker than him, but they've just made mistakes. They've essentially caused their own demise. Obviously, Pataska, a little bit of contact, getting that slowdown penalty has really gone against him. Mayer having that slight mistake, dropping back, and then the further contact, that's gone against him. And all through this, Klassens has just not made those mistakes.
The thing is, it's not over. He still has to hold on for 2.5 laps because Gruber is there, Mickey is there, and if they make mistakes, Crum and Pataska are still 2 seconds back of all this. What an intriguing final race of the day, as Klassens holds on to the lead for now by 5 car lengths, 2 to go.
Yep, I don't think Gruber has taken his Joker quite yet though, so it's not as close as it seems, but Gruber can still mess with Klassens certainly here. Mika has to.
Yeah, this is going to be very critical indeed. Mickey going for the move right here. Dallas Pataska going for the same move behind as Mickey gets turned in front of the field. Mickey spun around, bounces off of Mayer. Significant contact to the 915. And boy, oh boy, the tides turn for the white flag lap. Mickey has already pulled his car off the track. Pataska has jumped into a podium position for the white flag.
Yeah, it's completely turned around. Kurt Crum, you see that Gruber going, taking the Joker. He's going to fall back to probably about 5th spot, but Pataska might have the chance here to get back past Crum, get back in the 2nd spot, but it's definitely going to be Tim Claessens who's going to win this. And I'm just so surprised that's how it's worked out, because we kind of haven't really talked much about his pace all day, but he's just ran a great event, made no mistakes, and he's pulled it off.
Checker flag waves. Tim Claessens pulls off the upset. He wins in Norway. And Kurt Crum, Dallas Pataska rounding out the podium in what was a spectacular final. Celebrations already on for Claessens as he burns it down across the racetrack.
Yep, he's burning those tires at Fahrenheit 451, as is the number.
Indeed. What an eventful moment and what an eventful day. Once again, Claessens taking the checker flag in this one. Take a quick break. We come back. Race results and post-race coverage of watching the Major Series from Norway. Welcome back to GSRC for coverage of the Major Series and its European Pro Split after what was an eventful World Rallycross action-packed day here in Norway. The finals see Tim Claessens take the checker flag over Kurt Crum, Dallas Pataska, Ryan Mayer, George Gruber, Eric Mickey, the top 6 of the drivers who made it through to the semifinal and final bracket. It was entertaining to say the very least. Want to turn to you first, Christian, after this one. Your thoughts on how things played out. We were expecting Pataska to be strong in this finals, but in the end, mistakes came into play.
Yeah, I think once again, Tim Claessens just ran an event that was probably outwardly not really very exciting. He just executed really well, made no mistakes, and I mean, you know, he started the final in 4th. He wasn't in a position to win it as far as I was concerned. He had looked under threat in terms of pace getting through there, but made no mistakes, was able to take advantage when the two kind of standout drivers for pace through the day, Pataska and Mayer, both had mistakes and errors. and picked up the win. You know, I mean, I don't really know what more to say about Tim, because he just does this on such a consistent basis where he's very fast anyway, but he just doesn't make mistakes. And in not making mistakes and executing the events well is how he's picking up the wins and how he has as many points as he does.
Absolutely. And if you want to be a champion in this type of series, you need to be consistent in all different types of disciplines and know how to score points. Tim Claessens definitely knew how to do that today. We like to take time to remind you of the charity represented by today's event, Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. From face-to-face support to online education programs and promising worldwide research and initiatives, your donations make a difference in the lives of those impacted by Alzheimer's disease. For more information or to donate, go to alz.org. On that note, Ozzy, I want to turn to you. Your thoughts on how things played out today?
Well, it's rallycross, you know. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and obviously for our favorites, as Christian already mentioned, for Dallas Pataska and Ryan Mayer, a lot of things did go wrong. They ended third and fourth, so it's not a total disaster. They got to the final, but Tim Claessens, man, he was just perfect. He wasn't the fastest guy, not by any means, but he was perfect. He had a game plan, executed it, and made no mistakes. And I'm repeating a lot of what Christian said, but that was so important for him. And another important thing in that final was the contact between Erik Micke and Gerd Gruber. I don't think there was anything malicious in that. I think it was a racing incident, but that was also something that dropped Erik Micke out from potential second place contention all the way to the last place. So that's gonna be something he's gonna be looking back in some disappointment come the season's end, because these were some really valuable points on the line.
Absolutely, and in turn, it's going to be intriguing how this all now goes for the rest of the season. Indeed. As now, it's the matter, though, of how will this play out for the rest of the campaign, through the rest of the summer months, as well, to be able to make our way on forward through today's action. Intriguing to say the very least. And if you are Tim, what do you think's going through his mind now with the momentum? How about this? Let's bring in Tim himself, in fact, to get those thoughts. Tim, first things first, you've come away with the victory in the finals for today's action. How are you feeling?
Hey, good evening, guys. Well, this one definitely came as a surprise, because all week I was sort of nowhere with pace and everything. So it was just a round we had to get through. But yeah, just staying out of trouble and keeping it clean. And apparently that last round was already the final. So yeah, yay.
Yay, indeed. Overall, what were some of the major challenges of learning rallycross and trying to get yourself up to speed for this type of event to make sure you were consistent? Because it seemed you had decent pace overall once the cars were all grouped together for the racing itself, and you were able to maximize staying clean.
Yeah, I think that's what the trick was with these cars at first. Yeah, you think rallycross and going sideways, a lot of fun. But the trick with these cars really is don't have fun and be very smooth and precise and slide as little as you can. And just trying to stay away from other cars, because it is a close contact sort of racing discipline, this one. But you really don't want to deal with too many cars. So I just try to stay clean, stay out of people's ways and out of people's front bumpers way. And yeah, apparently that helped.
Indeed it did, and now it puts you in a good championship position for the rest of the summertime all the way into the fall. Your approach now for the championship was still plenty of racing action to go for the closing half of the season.
Yeah, and the rest of the races, they're, well, at least the road series races, they're more my cup of tea again. So really looking forward to the rest of the season right now.
Anyone you want to thank for the run today?
Well, my teammate Georg, he did an awesome job at being my wingman as well tonight, again for the second time. and of course the sponsors, TFR Labs, Envision, TeamSpeak, and all the rest of them.
Congratulations on the run today, Tim.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too. That's Tim Klatson's coming away with the strong run, and mentioned the wingman portion of things. It was talked about how that could be a factor, came into play here today. But on that note, it was intriguing to say the very least all of today's racing action. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from Norway. We'd like to thank the Major Series for organizing this amazing series. We'd like to remind you once more of today's charity, Alzheimer's Association. To donate, go to alz.org or to learn more information. We'd also like to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed on screen, with additional thanks to Jude Lawn, who provides wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more for great work. Thanks to the team today in Christian, Ozzy, and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormvy.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, plus the notification bell so you don't miss a moment of the Global Sim Racing Channel. The next time the Major Series hits the track for the European region is at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, or the Spa 2.4. That'll take place on August the 1st. Be sure to tune in. Coverage starts at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget, later on, the Major's American region heads to Crandon for the Crandon World Cup, or their part of the Dirt Wildcard Round. Coverage for that starts approximately 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time here on GSRC. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on screen. Be sure to check those out and mark them down your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.